This is extremely good news for Chicago Bulls fans. Although the Chicago Bulls have started the Summer League off with the record of 1-2, we're still seeing some exciting play from the notable names on the team and newer faces as well. That should make you excited for the 2025-2026 season. Hello, my name is Isaias Jackson Jr. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. We got to get into all the news and notes into the Chicago Bulls Summer League and, of course, the upside into the Chicago Bulls roster. However, 67.5% of you guys are not subscribed. 32.5% of you guys are. We appreciate you guys on both sides of the field. And look, summertime is flying by. The year is flying by. We're already halfway through July. And look, there is no time to waste. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share. And thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. However, look, usually I just run right into the content. But as an avid Pacers hater, I have a serious question. Just a quick question for you guys. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Look, okay, I'm done. Look, I am sick. This image has been burnt in my brain because it's been sent to me over and over and over again. Over and over. Is this your guy? Is this your lottery guy? Is this your go-to guy in the summer league? Yeah, I get it. I understand. Yeah, and they keep zooming in on our guy Noah Singe's face. And look, I understand. I understand. He's the butt of the joke right now. I feel that. But to get spammed that picture over and over and over again. But let me send a picture of Tyrese Halliburton on the ground. Let me post a picture of his face in that group chat. Oh, but I'm a bad guy. And by the way, shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. I hope for a speedy recovery, and I hope to see you on the court as soon as possible. But look, I'm just being honest here. I'd be the bad guy. I'd be wrong here. Okay, outside of the foolishness, by the way, he still had a 20-point game in there, so it's not like he was just got dunked on and was just absolutely buried. No, my man's had a solid game. He had a solid outing. We got to give credit where credit is due. So it's still some love there for Noah Singe. But however, Bulls roster shows off upside in Summer League win. Of course, we could talk about the upside here when there's been really a whole lot of things to critique when talking about the Chicago Bulls in the Summer League. I mean, even going into the box scores here. Going into the first one in the first game against the Toronto Raptors, of course, took the loss 116-72. And look, in the words of Patrick Beverly, I don't want to, use his terminology, but cones, I think, was the perfect description of the Chicago Bulls defense. It was just so bad. The Toronto Raptors were just blowing by the Chicago Bulls, and it also bled into the game against the Sacramento Kings, where you're in zone defense and you're not shuffling your feet, you're not moving over, you're not sliding at all. You're just letting the ball handler just run right past you, and then there's no help, on the flip side either. So the Chicago Bulls were just looking like a mess on the defensive side. However, Noah Singe's timing, at least on rim protection, I thought was really, really fun to watch. Really, really impressive at that. So you got to give credit where credit is due, and you got to give some love to the rookie as well. He did show out, and he is showing that 3-point shot that I critiqued, that I said could be, something that needed to be worked on, and something that we won't see, as officially off rip. I think he's definitely, showing it out. He hasn't used it as often. I believe in the Pacers game, he shot 8 threes, but at least in the Raptors game, it was only 3. He only went 1 for 3, which, he kept the reserve, only shot 2 or 7 from the field, only had a 5-point game. It was Buzelis who stepped out in a big way, 17 points, 5 rebounds, of course, but shot 4 for 14 from the field. Definitely something that you want to clean up. Javon Freeman Liberty. Look, I love me some Freeman Liberty. I had media credentials for the Windy City Bulls earlier this season. I got to interview Billy Donovan III. Really, really cool. But even through all that, I really, really loved watching Javon. My only problem is that he can hurt or help your team, on any day. You don't know what Javon Freeman Liberty you are going to get. He's going to come out there, and in this game, he's going to get you. He's going to drop He's gonna get you 21 points. He's gonna shoot 5 for 6 from the field. Then on the flip side, I believe he shot 6 for 18. With the Sacramento Kings. He's so streaky. So it's hard to be the put in that reliable role. At least for the Chicago Bulls in that instance. When you're that streaky. We've talked about that, with being Kobe White and Kobe White being in that situation as well. Yuki Kawamura has taken the league by storm. Now, he did that, of course, last season with him and Ja Morant. Him and Ja Morant, of course, going back and forth. Them pretty much being brothers. They should have started They should have started streaming. If you guys ever seen Kai, if you guys are ever pay attention to streaming, which why would you? Kai and the group of guys that he has. It was similar to that kind of the relationship. The friendship that they had, and it was pure. It was genuine. And so to see that split obviously sucked, but to see him in a summer league uniform for the Chicago Bulls is actually pretty fire, and he's fun to watch. He can pass the rock, he can share the sugar, and the facilitation that he puts on the floor is actually really fun to watch. However, it can hurt in more ways than one as well. I believe it was the Sacramento Kings game where it was just a bunch of useless turnovers of just him going up the floor, not even knowing what's going on behind him, and him just getting ripped up from behind. Of course, that's also can be attributed to the defense as well. You're not being vocal. Where's the help at? Hey, behind you. Where's the love at? Where's the help at for Yuki Kawamura? And then on the flip side, him inbounding the ball, just throwing it right to a Sacramento Kings player. Just things of that nature. But even in this Toronto Raptors Chicago Bulls game, really, really just disappointed in the defense. The defense just absolutely was just stagnant. Then of course on the flip side, the offense drew cold after a while. There was actually a play where Noah Singay just dribbled the ball up the court and just got ripped up. Just the ball just was ripped right out of his hands. And I can't even call it pickpocketed. The guy just pretty much just looked him dead in the eye and said, "I'll just take that." Just thank you, sir. And just went on a one-man fast break for an easy layup. And that's just the things that you don't want to see, the things that you don't need. But, of course, that's coming with youth. You're hoping that things will go and change as we continue to watch the team grow and develop. They took the 109-92 loss to the Sacramento Kings in this game. However, was a little bit more impressive on the defensive side. And, of course, this game was a little bit more fun to watch until you got to the tail end of the game. And, of course, the defense got a little rough. And, of course, you get a little frustrated once you start seeing easy layups. It's just so disappointing and underwhelming seeing a point guard at the top of the key. And no matter who is guarding said point guard or who is guarding anybody, at the top of the key, you're getting blue by. And there is no help defense. You can't pray for help defense. Of course, the back door is probably getting left open as well. So it's miserable watching the Chicago Bulls on the defensive side. You just move your feet. Just move your feet. What are you doing? It's just frustrating. And then on the flip side, when the offense is hot and ready, man, it is looking beautiful. When Buzelis is moving around on all cylinders, he looks like a man on a mission, of course, as usual. We talked about Javon Freeman Liberty. And, of course, the game that he had, dropped 21 in his last game. He dropped 21 in this game, but 6 for 18 from the field, 1 for 5 from three-point range. As I said, just streaky. In that Noah Singay, 0 for 4 from three-point range, but 4 from 10 from the field, 12 points in this game. And look, he's going to shoot the rock. He's not worried at all. And, of course, the mid-range shot he's getting a little comfortable with as well. And man, does he have some force at the rim as well. The athleticism is getting put on full display, and you see that is a man, getting up there at the rim. He goes up there with so much force, and it's just fun to watch. You can already tell this man is going to be putting on just a clinic, putting on a highlight clinic. Him and Buzelis alike. Yuki Kawamura, if I could just go back on him one more time, he knows how to find the open man man in terms of guys that are cutting, guys that are able to find that back door. And David Muoka has been absolutely unreal with his bounce and his athleticism. He's one of the guys that Yuki has been primarily targeting, and of course with these oops as well. So that has been a whole lot of fun to watch. Just seeing the young guys come through and step up as well for the Chicago Bulls. Of course, Montes Buzelis didn't play that game in this Sacramento Kings game, and that brings us, of course, to the Indiana Pacers game as well, which was a fun game in itself, more fun than with the other games that we were watching in itself, because we saw effort, being put on full display. Then, of course, you've seen the dunk as well that we don't need to dwell on too much as well. But Noah Senge will be fine. I know he's going to be the biggest meme right now. Of course, he's going to be talked about right now, but he'll be fine. He'll be fine, and I think he'll have more highlights, as he progresses as well. This man is going to be a freak of nature when experience, is underneath him. Same with Montes Buzelis. I think we just found, the 1-2 punch, for Chicago. We already saw it with Josh Giddey and Kobe White. Now we're looking at it with Noah Senge and Montes Buzelis. It's just a matter of time. And if the Chicago Bulls can keep this tandem together, if the Chicago Bulls can keep this group together, to keep this young team together, this young core, then look, there is a chance. There is a chance. I know a lot of people love to talk about OKC and what OKC had to do to build the team that they have now. It is pretty much close to, I don't know necessarily say close to impossible, but it's really, really hard to be where OKC is at now, to where you're still re-signing your youth, and on top of that, you still have 48,000 other picks, in the future to build on your team as well. So it's kind of hard to be putting in that OKC room to even call yourself a dynasty, to think about the future and see how far your team could go in terms of a dynasty and just the good years in your team. But with the Chicago Bulls, man, you have some great years with the youth here. Noah Senge, 7 for 14, 50% from the field in Monday's game. Shot 3 for 8 from 3-point range, 21 points. Of course, Montes Buzelis had 32 minutes in this game, 8 for 14 from the field, had 28 points in this game. Was asked afterwards about the pace and how they want to keep the pace going into this season. And of course, that's pretty much what the game plan is when it's all said and done. And they're fast. They have the speed and the athleticism on the floor. It was just a matter of the rebounding as well. The rebounding is definitely what stood out too. Definitely getting beat on the rebounding side multiple times, especially in the Raptors-Kings game, where you're just seeing the Raptors and Kings just get 2 or 3 second or third chance opportunities at the rim, just because nobody is boxing out or nobody's just at the paint. Nobody's hustling down low to go and attack the rim and go and get a board. That's one thing that's just definitely been bothersome when looking at the Chicago Bulls. And of course, just looking at the key errors and mistakes so far early on. But it's growth. It's coming with growth, and so I just can't wait to see what the Chicago Bulls are going to look like when they gel and when it's all said and done. But going back and to summarize what the Chicago Bulls have gone through just the past couple of days, on Monday night, the Chicago Bulls Summer League roster got its first win, downing the Indiana Pacers 114-105. It was their first win in Las Vegas, and a great one considering the experience of the Pacers squad as well. And I think that's fun. This Pacers squad, of course, you've seen the great work that they did, of course, in the regular season. And they, of course, build from the ground up. I do think the Indiana Pacers with the coaching, Rick Carlisle, I think they have done a tremendous job, building from the ground up as well. I think a lot of people, we talked about with OKC, they give a whole lot of credit for their youth and what they've built. You can still get a whole lot of love for the Indiana Pacers and still keeping that foundation that they have within the team. However, they did lose in Miles Turner just a couple weeks ago to the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's definitely a gut punch. That's something that's we're definitely is going to see is going to be really, really telling for the Indiana Pacers. But the Bulls stand on the opposite side of the experience, having drafted 2 upside swings in the last 2 years, first grabbing former G League Ignite forward Montes Buzelis before drafting Noah Esingeh, number 12 this year, and both were spectacular against Indiana. Buzelis saw a decent rookie season, added some immediate impact for the Eastern Conference the squad by mostly showing future upside. Across 80 games in his rookie season, he averaged 8.6 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 1 assist, shooting 45% overall and 46% from 3. And of course, against the Pacers Monday, Buzelis looked exactly as he should have, a second-year player. In 32 minutes, he added a team-high 28 points of 8 of 14 shooting, hitting on 2 of his 4 three-pointers. He got to the line frequently, coming away with 10 points in 13 tries. Of course, to this point, Buzelis is likely the focal point of the Bulls' youth movement, having been drafted well below where he should have last year. He has ways to go in becoming a star, but the bones are there for a lengthy two-way score. And I do think that is, of course, going to be set in stone for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls then turned around in 2025 and drafted something similar in lengthy forward Noah Esingeh at 6'10" and extremely raw, but produced well in a pro league at just 18, pointing to a great two-way upside on the wing. And you saw that. Like I said, his timing down low I thought was just so impressive. You know, even with the Euro stuff, there was one man that went through and he had a Euro step for the Sacramento Kings, and he got up, and it was kind of like a delay, but Noah Esingeh kind of just ran past him, got in front of him, and just waited for him to just immediately jump in the air, and Noah Esingeh just immediately swatted it down. I thought the timing of this man is just absolutely impeccable, and that's one thing that I really, really can't wait to see with Montes Buzelis, with Noah Esingeh, and of course with this Chicago Bulls squad. I just think there's so much upside to them. I'm not really too worried about the record that the Chicago Bulls hold in the summer league. I'm worried about how they maintain, how they get the record, if they're just pretty much sitting there watching their defenders just blow by them with no help defense, and there's just no defense being played whatsoever. Then yeah, I'm gonna be a little hot. Then I'm gonna care a little bit, but I'm not gonna focus too solely until the summer league results, in terms of how they end the game. I just want to see the performance of the youth, how they play as a team, and if they can see, and if they can contribute as one, seeing in Montes Buzelis, Noah Esingeh, of course. How are they going to gel on the floor together? Seeing how, of course, this is going to happen with them on the floor going into the regular season. We just want to see how this is going to work with the young guys coming through, and if they can still contribute at a high level, which we know Montes Buzelis can. What can Noah Esingeh bring us? And he is showing us tremendous upside. But what do you think? Do you think the Chicago Bulls are showing you tremendous upside? Are you really focused in on this summer league, or are you going to wait until regular season, see what the Chicago Bulls got, and then judge off based then? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Leave your comments down low. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time.